Hi everyone, how's it going today? Say hello back, and just so we know that you're watching. So we're back in the greenhouse, and as promised, I talked about these are some tomatoes that we were growing in our house. Now, let us know, do you grow tomatoes yourselves? You know, like in a kitchen or somewhere nice and sunny, and start your own tomato plants. And these are a couple of tomatoes, and I start them early on every year. This year I kind of forgot. Usually I start them like Christmas time. This year it was way past that. And we always like to have at least one great big tomato in our greenhouse, you know, when we open up in May, and you know it's ready, or it already does have tomatoes on it. It's just kind of a show off one. You know, we have a greenhouse, so we can do that. So these are three Better Boy tomatoes that I planted, and we did do just a real short video because a lot of people were asking, you know, when these stretch, how do you deal with that? Because they do it. And when you have tomatoes seedlings started in a house, they will stretch because they're trying to find the sun. And there's a real easy trick that you can use. And tomatoes have roots all along that stem. And you can just take and put your fingers around it and shove that back down into the soil, down deeper in. And you can do that several times. And that's what I did with these. And they're at that point now, they're ready to be transplanted because I don't want to overcrowd them. You know, obviously this is just a 6-inch pot. I'm going to separate these out and put them in their own 6-inch pot, but I'm going to transplant them again and probably into another bigger container. And eventually I want to have them into a really big container. My rule of thumb for tomato plants is you need at least 5 gallons because tomatoes, they grow, they get big, and they require a lot of moisture. So your container, make sure if you're growing, if they're not in the garden, if they're not in the ground, make sure that they're in at least a 5-gallon container because they will go through it. And the last couple of years, I don't know if you have seen it, like if you walk into our greenhouses, usually we grow one big cherry tomato, and the last couple of years, they were up and out of the greenhouse, and the one was actually 14 feet tall. So, and that was, you know, from being inside in the greenhouse and a lot of beat your neighbor fertilizer. So it really got its growth, but it found a hole, kind of in the side of the greenhouse, and it went up and out, and it kept going for another couple feet. So that one tomato plant we had that one year was 14 feet tall. So that was kind of cool. But today I'm going to go through and I'm going to transplant these into separate containers. So it's real easy. I'm just going to dig down, and these are pretty deep because, like I said, I was pushing these down. So I'm just going to go through and carefully dig it. And see, I've got that whole clump. And I've got a couple of containers here already. And again, this is going to go as deep as I can put it down in there. So I'm not going to plant it like this because, again, this will root all along that stem. I want it down. Plant it down deep as you can get it, maybe even a little bit more. I'm gonna push the soil in here and kind of pack it in. So that's going to be good. Maybe just a tad more. Yeah, people are always amazed when we tell them, you know, when they're in our greenhouses and they're buying the great big tomato plants, and like, how deep should I put this down? And I'm like, right to the neck. You can plant a tomato deep, and it just makes a much better plant because it starts filling out and growing along those roots, and it's developing underneath the soil. So it makes a much better plant when you do that. So I'm going to grab one more out of here. And I'm just going to go in there, just stick my fingers and try to pull up this whole root ball. And again, get this deep. So I've got quite a ways, and this one has leaves about halfway down. And you know what? I'm going to take those off because they're going to be in the way, and anything that goes below the ground, I don't want to have any leaves below the soil. So I'm going to take those off right away. It'll grow more. And this one, I am going to bury it right up to its neck, almost all the way down there. So, and I'll just fill in that soil. So you can see, yeah, plant them deep. Now, we have, I would say, at least a half dozen how-to videos on tomatoes, growing tomatoes, and you can go to our YouTube channel and check those videos out there. You know, one of the most common problems that people have in growing tomatoes is blossom end rot. So does anybody have that blossom end rot, you know, in past years where it gets that nasty black mushy spot on the tomato? That's called blossom end rot, and there's a very easy way to prevent that. And if you go into our videos, look up for the video on blossom end rot in tomatoes, and there's a really easy way to take care of that. So that's my transplanting of the tomatoes. So next time I transplant them, we'll be into a much bigger container, because now this tomato has some room to grow. I'll probably let it get maybe this big before I transplant it into the next, you know, more of like a bucket sized. And it's definitely going to get some Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer, and then we'll go into a bigger container. So I talked a little bit about overcrowding because I had these 3 tomato plants in here. Same concept applies to other plants, and that's why I'm just going to show you one of the jobs yesterday. We were planting geraniums, and you can see behind me there's lots of geraniums, and we have to space them out because they need that room to grow. And we've seen greenhouses that had geraniums pot tight, and it doesn't work. You know, those geraniums, they'll look like I mean, they'll just go straight up, and they'll look like an Easter lily. Geraniums have to have room to grow, and greenhouses should know better. So the geraniums are going to grow this way, and that's why we have to give them some room to grow laterally, to grow sideways and fill in. And they also need some air movement through there. You don't want to put stuff pot tight, because the leaves will start touching it and everything will get funky, and it just doesn't work, especially for geraniums. And so what else are we doing today, Amy?
Planting baskets.
Planting hanging baskets. So we started, you can see in the background there, we started doing some hanging baskets, and we used our machine today and yesterday, and that worked really slick, putting the hanging baskets right through, and man, it fills them up fast. So then we stop, we'll do like I don't know, 25, 50 hanging baskets, and then we'll go through and plant them and then hang them. And that's another workout. Is we're both starting to feel greenhouse season. There's only day 4, and we're both kind of feeling it. Those muscles weren't used to lifting hanging baskets up on the rack, or my back was killing me from yesterday being bent over. I'm tall, so separating out the geraniums and spacing them, that's a job for a short person, and I'm tall, so, but I drew the short straw yesterday and did, I don't know, 10 benches of geraniums and had to space them out because they need to be spaced out. So we'll take a day off tomorrow for sure, Sunday, and we'll come back and we'll talk to you next week and show you what else is growing on in the greenhouses. See ya. Have a good day.